Hello.
What up? What up? I'm in Pittsburgh though.
Oh, okay, Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, I knew it was with a P. I thought it was Philly last time. There's a lot of things to kind of nail. For an example, even when I went on YouTube, you can't find a lot of stuff on fasting. Honestly, the stuff that I find on fasting is intermittent fasting, which I don't do at all. And so I wanted this to just really be informative on every aspect. And from you guys, I consider you guys to be some of the most heavy hitters when it comes to the subject. So I think with all of us really here brainstorming and going over everything together is just going to be like everything everybody needs all in one. When it comes to the weather, a lot of people, I've noticed there's people I've talked to that actually do fast, that they don't like to fast at certain points like of time, whether it be winter time, whether it be fall and all that stuff. How do you think the weather affects you when you do it?
I think it makes a huge difference, especially if you don't have much exposure to sun, because especially carbon beings that we all have carbon, right? But beings that have a greater amount of carbon, we depend solely on that sunlight exposure, or we feed off that. It provides a lot of minerals to our body. When I sit out in the sun, I don't feel like I need much when I'm fasting. I don't feel like I need, I feel like I ate a meal, if you will, when I sit out in the sun. And, it's just that good a feeling. You could tell just by even how your mood is. And people don't understand, like, your mood can impact how long, or the longevity of your fast. It can really dictate the outcome of that as well, based on how you're feeling. So, and that's why you see, like, here on the East, that's why it becomes more difficult, because you start to reach those colder climates. That's where depression starts to sink in, because that lack of sunlight. So, it makes a big difference.
That's actually some really brilliant points, because I don't think that's something a lot of people think about. Obviously, we know certain fruits and certain vegetables are located in different parts of the world that some people may not have access to. For an example, at least over here, I know one of your big things is tamarind, but I don't ever come across tamarind like that. Like that's something that's kind of foreign to my location, I guess. So I haven't been able to incorporate that, but we'll get into all that right now. Since we got our last guest in here, Taylor, I just want to introduce everybody. I definitely want to go over some stuff with you, because there's videos and stuff that you put up where you won't say a word, but you'll say everything in just that like little video and what you're writing and all that. And there's something that you have put up that really kind of stuck with me as well. So I want to get into that. Pretty much the process of fasting and kind of like what that is, because I think a lot of people look at it as a diet. I don't really call it a diet, because you're not eating anything. I really just, I put that with certain things, like whether you want to be on a vegan diet, whether you're a pescatarian, all this other stuff. So fasting to me is not a diet at all. It's really more of a spiritual, I would say, practice. But when it comes to food, we understand that is an addiction. So I'll start with you, Prophetess Camila, and you could just kind of give your insight on what fasting is to you, and what that is, or what that could possibly mean for other people who maybe just be getting started with it.
Yes. So I can't see you guys. My phone is dark right now because of the sun, but hello, I can see myself a little bit. But fasting to me, when people ask me like how many times I fast, is it kind of like a wrong question for me, because for me it's more like how many times do you eat? Because fasting to me is natural state. So I am fasting all the time, but I eat when I want to. You see the differences? So sometimes, when people say fasting is like reaching your higher state, to me it's like, this is going back to your natural state, So once you find that natural state, you're not doing anything. Fasting, you're not eating, you're not drinking, you're not doing absolutely anything, So it's not something that we do to me, I'm not doing anything, but I'm being in my natural state as much as I can. And at the moment I'm on juices, right? So I sip on juices whenever I want to, but it's not that I consume a lot of juices. To people that actually think that they're doing something when they are fasting, I would just say, like, just imagine that you are just being your natural state, and you actually are whole. You know, you don't need anything from outside of yourself. But now we're letting go of the habit that we put on ourselves, because eating is a habit. To me, it is a habit. You know, it's a learned habit. So slowly but surely, I'm just, you know, embracing the natural me. So that's fasting to me. I don't know how else to put it, but it's not a thing that you do to reach a higher consciousness. Your natural state is higher consciousness. So you just
Yeah,
going back to
that's
the natural.
actually really beautiful said. That's beautifully said that you put it that way. I think that should resonate with a lot of people because that was one of the things that stuck out about you to me was when you were talking about it, you said that if you're doing nothing, it's not that you're doing something when you're fasting. You're not doing a process. You're not doing a thing. You're doing nothing and becoming more of yourself as that is happening. And
That's why it's
I'm
less is more.
actually, yeah, exactly. That's why I called this that because I don't think that's an understanding a lot of people have. I use the analogy of filling up a trash can. If a trash can is empty, you have all this space to put inside of it, you know, whatever that you are. But then when that trash can gets full, you have to dump it at some point. So it just becomes an occurring detoxing process when you are constantly putting things inside of you. Taylor, I'm gonna go over to we did lose her. I'm gonna go over to you real quick, Taylor, because in fasting, and I'm on day 3 right now. I wanted to go into this live fasting so I could speak off the experience as well. And when you're fasting, you start to see a lot of clarity with things. So obviously you can see that clarity with your breathing, and breathing is a big part, I believe, of, well, obviously everyday life, but when it comes to fasting, because your sleeping starts to become, you get that quality sleep. You start to notice things that were being suppressed before as you were putting food in your body. So since you are basically the person when it comes to breath work that I know about, how important do you see fasting with that connection with the breath and breath work all in that same process?
They're gonna go hand in hand, man. I mean, the more that you eat foods, the more, you know, especially denser foods are more than a fist size, the more that you're gonna create expansion in the digestive tract, and then also create that pressure on the diaphragm so the lungs can't really fully expand, and the lower lungs have more blood in them, you know, because the density, the lower part of it, the blood's gonna, you know, soak to that area more. So if you can't expand your lower lungs, your diaphragm fully, then you can't circulate your blood correctly, and your blood is like liquid consciousness. And if you have that full circulation, it's kind of like they say in the East, they say an iron shirt, you know, and they say, you know, like the word Fe, like if you look at Fe on the periodic table, it's iron, and that's the same word for faith. Like Santa Fe means the saint of faith. So I feel like if you have the full circulation, then you can have that, your consciousness is fully circulated, and you have faith. You know, you could just take, you know, get from one breath to the next, and you're not gonna be panicked as you fast if you're in touch with your breath. I feel like a lot of people might fall off because, you know, they're not really, you know, they're not in touch with the breath when they first get into fasting. But as you do it more and more, I think it just becomes obvious.
Yeah, that's also beautifully said too, because like I said, with me being in the third day normally for me is that break off where it's like, yeah, I don't need food at all. Like I don't need a solid. I don't need to. You went through kind of those, if you want to call them hunger pains. I didn't have those, but if you haven't fasted before, you'll definitely get those because it's foreign to you. And then you start to see that all you need is the breath. Like I even remember to breathe so more often now because my breath is so clear that I don't have a choice but to pay attention to it. Because I'm noticing that if my breath isn't full, if I'm not like fully breathing, then there's still like work I have to do, so to speak. And one of the key things too that you mentioned was the blood and the blood circulation. So Brandon, I'll pass this over to you because one thing I think that is another thing that we've learned, especially from like Dr. Sebi and his practices, where having the addition of herbs in the body as you're fasting to aid in so many different things, whether it be in getting rid of inflammation or certain diseases that maybe some people have, that there's certain herbs that will go and will help to aid the body into ridding of all these different occurrences. So one of the things with you fasting, what have you noticed that has helped you the most using herbs?
One thing I would say is that everything is connected. You know, when you think about fasting and herbs, because in actuality, your body has everything that it needs, right? You know, you don't really need any herbs. People ask me all the time, like, what herbs should I take? What should I take for this? I'm having an issue with this or that. And you don't really need any herbs if you give it the proper environment. You know, you allow it to, you know, your systems to rest. You know, we're so used to the way Western society is. We want everything done in a quick fix. You know, we got pharmaceuticals now that can kind of, they don't really solve your issue, but, you know, they help you relieve some of what you're feeling. But I just learned you don't really need herbs. However, the herbs definitely, you know, can help speed up the process in a natural way. It's just when you use them, you have to do so effectively. And it's not only that, but they're all connected in some way, shape, or form. Like practically everything has iron in it when we're talking about herbs, or potassium, calcium. It's just certain plants may have a greater concentration of that mineral more so than the other, but it's all connected. So if you utilize them in a way while you're allowing your body to rest, you're still going to be able to heal the areas that you need to do, that you need to recover. And yeah, it's everything's connected is what I learned. And, you know, you just got to create that right environment for your system and be patient with your body. You know, you don't really need the herbs, but your body has everything. It's just, you know, the herbs help, but you got to allow your system to rest.
To go over to like back to the breath and back to breathing with all of this is, once again, you had mentioned the blood, and I know that herbs, and there's certain herbs, not every herbs, like different herbs do different things, but with that, and Dr. Sebi also had spoken about this, is that cleansing of the blood allows that circulation to happen. So what it seems like with fasting, at least from my experience as well, what it really does is it gets you back to the breath, which gets you back to needing less and then eventually needing nothing. And that nothing is that, you know, when we talk about breaking the addiction of food and all this stuff, which is all these different things. I mean, some people go around, they eat 3-4 times a day, and that is really suppressing the breath. So when it comes to, like, would you agree technically with that statement, Taylor, that what you want to get back to and only needing is the breath?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I guess it's kind of all anybody really needs. I mean, the food is so corrupted at this point. We're pretty much just living off our breath and then entertaining ourselves emotionally with the food. But the herbs, I feel like they're nice for, because, you know, especially root herbs will be a nice way to stay grounded while you're fasting, because, you know, a lot of people probably never had that much circulation to their brain until they fasted. So, you know, I feel like a lot of people just feel empty and they want to, you know, they don't feel grounded. So if you have root herbs, it's a better way to be grounded than to eat like whatever else you might have been eating. And yeah, like it definitely is about the blood. You know, so much of it is the blood. You know, if you're taking red clover, it'd be a great herb for cleansing your blood. You know, so I think it's really just the voids, man. How many voids are in people's lives? You know, if you got a lot of voids emotionally and stuff like that, all of that is going to get exposed as you fast. And like you said, getting back to nothing is like kind of realizing like you are the nothing. You are the immaterial, and like you shouldn't be trying to fill the voids. Like you should kind of just like weigh it and like let you are what people are calling the void. You know, you don't need to fill it.
Agree.
Yeah, that's good. Good point. In your personal experiences fasting, what have you actually done the most? Because this is probably a question a lot of people have when it comes to this. There's some people who will go cold turkey and they'll go right into a full fast, you know, not intermittent, not none of that. I actually did this. I don't eat anything. So normally when I tell people I'm fasting, I'm in the middle of fast, they go like for a day, you intermittent fasting, are you doing a keto diet? Like what is it? And I just say, no, I'm not eating anything, like no solids right off the bat. From your experience, what has been the thing that you've been doing when it comes to fasting? Has it only just been juices, teas, water, things of that sort?
Um, what do I do? First, I feel like I said, like fasting is not doing to me for me. So, in a sense, this whole thing has been a mind work. It's in the mind. You know, it's not the food, it's the mind. So what I have done is like I do different practices, mind practices. Okay, because all of this is concepts. Eating food is a concept. You know, even eating herbs is a concept. But do you believe the concept that will become real, right? So for me, it's more like working with the mind, right? So I've done a lot of meditations just to learn how to observe my mind and the thoughts. I have done a lot of, you know, body movements, such as Qigong. So those are the practices that I do to go through the fasting, because of when you get the need of eating something or drinking something, it's your mind. It's not your body that's telling you something. It's the mind telling you something. So it's like I'm working with the mind most of the times. So I sip on herbs. You know, it's not that I believe that any herb can make me whole. I'm already whole, you know, but I sip on herbs because I feel like this whole planet is connected. We are connected to everything, you know. So every plant has also different energy. So I connect with the plants by drinking my chamomile, for example. I have a different connection to chamomile. I have a different connection to my mugwort. I have different connection to different herbs because of, it's not that they complete me, but it's just like they are in the process with learning, you know, that I don't actually need anything, but I can use them if I want to, you know. So people that actually come to you and say like, okay, can you give me a juice or give me an herb to fix me? Give them one, because it will fix them. It's all in the mind. You know, if you really believe the herb will fix you, you know. So I would just say, like, you know, mind, the mind, work with the mind. Don't think it's the food thing. Don't put yourself in a restrictions, like restricting yourself. I can't eat between this hour and that hour. Now you created another concept, right? Feel like, you know, you can eat whenever you want to, but you choose not to. It's a freedom in that, you know? But if I say like, you know, I'm going to fast today for 3.5 days or 4 days for today, it becomes a challenge, because now I'm challenging myself by saying I'm doing something. At the end of the day, I'm not doing something, I'm being, you know? So it's all about learning how to be. And if you want food, eat food. If you don't want it, don't eat food, but just don't create another new concept. It's all. So I'm shedding all beliefs, and I'm absolutely avoiding new beliefs. So that's what I do.
That was a whole lot of I do nothing, but I do everything at the same time.
But it's nothing. It's
Yeah,
being, you know,
yeah.
being. I always say, like, there is no becoming in being.
Mhm.
So people want to become something. Like, you know, if you want to fast, you want to reach higher. What is higher? You are everything. You are whole, you know? So why do you want to reach something? Why do you want to become something that's not you, you know? So it's all
Yeah.
about, you know, being. So can you learn how to be? That's the, you know, the difficult one.
I've talked to people before when I was in a fast, probably like 14 days and all that. I literally, and I remember this, one of my coworkers at the time was like, man, I'm hungry. I haven't eaten since like 4 o'clock, whatever. I said, I haven't eaten in 12 days. So I'm like, you know what I mean? I'm like, it is a mental thing. And there's a lot of people that can't grasp the fact that they can go without what they think they need. So
yeah. It's the thoughts.
it's
You know, we can kill
right,
ourselves with a thought, and we can heal ourselves with a thought. So it's just the mind. And food is an addiction.
right.
It's an addiction. It's not a normal thing, you know, just to shove everything in. You know, we're blocking everything. And it doesn't even make sense, you know? So food is not natural to us, but that we need some fuel, that's something else, you know, not need, but if you can get some fuel because of this body, you know, it's a dense body. It needs something because of, you know, it's attached to the mind. The mind tells you, eat your leg, you do, you know, it commands you all the time. So if you're still dealing with the mind, you have to know how to fuel your body before you get into any extended long fast. Yep.
Yeah. I like what she said because you know, the mind definitely plays a big part. There was times where, you know, for me personally, when I fast and I'll do like a water fast, but more so dry fasting. You know, I'll drink my water here and there, or I'll kind of see if I could test and push and limit myself to maybe like 1 liter of spring water every 2 or 3 days. But there's been times where I would reach past that, you know, that third day. You don't feel hungry, but when you see the act of eating around you, you know, you feel kind of, you feel away at first, at least for me personally. And, you know, you kind of get that urge to want to eat, but it's not that you're hungry. It's just, you know, your mind is telling you like, everybody's eating, man, you can eat too.
Yeah.
And you kind of just have to, in those moments I realized like, all right, here's where I still have some work to do. I still have to, as our brother Taylor would say, you know, breathe. Breathing definitely has helped. And that's something that I still, you know, have to practice myself, is breathing, you know, just chill and relax. But that's why I've kind of set a new regimen for myself, is because I am an influencer and I'm a content creator. So I'm constantly, not only that, but I still do a day-to-day job, right? So when I do speak on fasting, I tell people you want to take time off. You know what I mean? You want to maybe take some time off work. Use some of that vacation time to invest in time to yourself. Speak with your family about it. You know, I live with my wife and daughter. I always advise them that I'm about to do a fast. And this can allow them to support me if they want to as well. It's just, you need that support. You need that less of an expectation, because we are healing, and when we're detoxing, we're becoming more of ourselves, but we feel less than, if that makes sense. Like you start to realize that you lose some of that energy only for you to gain it back again. You might experience headaches or migraines only for it to release from your system entirely. Like you start hitting those benchmarks of 5, 7, 8 days, and you really still feel like a whole nother being, but it's just who you were always meant to be. And that's what I realized. But as I said, you know, as a content creator, as an influencer, I realized that everybody is at different stages. So, you know, a true fast is nothing, right? Well, would everybody agree? A true fast is nothing. Like you're consuming nothing. But because everybody can, you know, I mean, everybody's at different stages. So to me, as long as you can abstain from something, you know what I mean? Try abstaining from eating meat.
Yes.
Challenge yourself to stop eating meat, dairy. You know, maybe challenge yourself to do raw foods only fruits and vegetables. Do a raw foods fast. You know, it's not necessarily a true fast, but it still allows you to challenge yourself and abstain from some things that aren't benefiting you anyway.
Yeah. Just fast for anything, from a thought, from a habit, you know, anything, you know, because addiction is the mind. It is in the mind. The mind telling you, like, forcefully, like, do that, do that. Whether it is eat or whether it is whatever it is, you know, is it heroin or whatever. It's just the mind telling you what to do, you know. And so you need to be in control instead of, like, you know, the mind telling you go and do that and you just do it. So even if it's like going to eat an apple and it tells you what to do and you don't want it, it's an addiction. And when it comes to the breathing, I saw you mention breathing. You know, a lot of people say breatharianism is like how you live on breath. We all breathe, okay? We all live on breath. Without the breath, we're not here. But if you focus on the breath, I wouldn't say even like learn how to focus or anything, but if you learn how to be in the present moment, the only thing you're dealing with is the breath. Because the only thing you have is the breath. You know, that's the only thing that's in the present moment. So don't even think about doing like some breath work to get a higher, so this. It's just too many things going on out there. It's just sit with yourself and just be. That's all you need to do. Then the breath will come on its own. You know, when you let go of stuff, you make space for more, right? So now you're just making space for more. But if you trap yourself with another idea, you're challenging yourself. So flow. Me, I don't normally tell my family if I'm fasting. Like the extended fast, if I'm going to go 4 days with nothing, for example, 7 days with nothing, I won't tell my husband or my kids because they are also another mind that will affect me. You can just walk by and be like, hey, do you have anything to drink today? You know, and that thought will affect me. And it will, you know, so I normally don't. And the time I tell them is always like challenging, but when I don't tell them, I'm just living normal. You know, I could have been gone like 2 days drying right now, but I wouldn't even know. But I know the times I drink. So it's the opposite for me. So I know if I drink today, I'm like, okay, I had some drink. But other than that, you know, you're not doing anything. You're just being. So just be. That's my advice to everybody, you know, and just don't challenge yourself.
Yeah, I think, and I agree with that, because when you do make it a challenge, you make it, you create a field for yourself, which is stress, which is worry, all these things that really suppress you mentally and spiritually. And so if you're doing this for weight loss, for an example, and you're like, oh, I haven't lost weight or 15 pounds in 4 days, it's like, that's not what this is for. You know, that comes along with it, but that's not what this is for. It's
you are
literally
attached to the mind. If you actually want to lose weight, then there's a mind. It's a mind thing.
right.
So this fasting is a letting go of the mind. The mind's nonsense, you know, like
That's the thing, you know. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, that's the thing. You know, and you also have people who don't want to fast because they don't want to lose weight.
Yeah, that's the mind thing. You know, that's
Because, and to go off of what she said, because it's a challenge, because it's abnormal, right? You're so used to eating food, you can't fathom what it's like without it. And it's just, I mean, yeah, it goes back to the mind. And this is something, and I'm gonna pass this over to Taylor too, because there's something that you said too, Brandon, that made me think of this though. But when it comes to like being around certain people, right? Like, for an example, Taylor, you fasted for over a year, right? Like, it was just completely liquids.
Yeah, just liquids.
So, I mean, with that, we normally, when we're doing this, like we were talking about, the third day, you're like, yeah, I don't really need to eat. 7 days, I really don't need to eat. You know, you start to see all these commercials. I did this yesterday. I was watching, I don't know what, I think it was maybe some YouTube or something like that. And all I'm seeing, I kid you not, is Burger King commercials and Wendy's. And I'm just like, yo, why am I noticing how much food stuff there is everywhere when I'm not partaking in it? But when I am eating, I'm not paying attention to any of this. It's like the simple awareness raises and rises. And so to not eat anything solid and just only intake liquids for over a year and be around people, I'm sure, who are doing this all the time, how is that like for you? Because some of these, you know, some people literally take on that breatharian lifestyle completely. They don't really go back to eating, especially when they reach a point like that.
I really feel like, you know, if you're doing what you love to do, and at the time I was doing a lot of, you know, breathwork training people and training the person that I was with at the time. I was doing a lot of that, so I felt like, you know, it was just when every day, you know, like you said, you're not really thinking about eating because you're in the mode of like creating or getting better at something. It's just like when a kid is out playing or something and, you know, they don't want to come in to eat. They just want to keep doing what they're doing because they're not really thinking about eating at the time. They're just like in the moment. So I felt like I was in a space where I just could just focus on teaching, and I felt like it was nice, and it gave me a space to not really think about eating. It just was like, man, how can I get better at this breath? And like it kind of felt like just like almost like I had no choice though at some level, because I really do feel like it's the way Wu Wei thing. Like it's doing, not doing. Like she was saying, like it's more so like you just do what you can't not do. Like I just can't indulge in the same behaviors because I know those outcomes. And if I'm in the moment, if I'm creating something, if I'm, being productive, if I'm really in alignment with my purpose, then I'm not really thinking about food. And when it comes to food, it's all just reminders. So like if you're in your, it's not like food gives you energy. It's not like the herbs heal, but they remind. Like it's just like if you have color therapy, you get exposed to certain colors, they resonate with those colors that are within you. It's like if you eat certain food, those the electrical structures in that food resonates within you. The herbs, different parts of them. Like if they say you eat a walnut, it's like the shape of the brain. You have black walnut, and it helps to cleanse these areas that it looks like. So it's just resonating and reminding. It's not really giving you energy or giving you anything. So I think it's more so like you're in a state of like, and no longer in a state of taking. Because I feel like so many people, when they want to get better, they're like, man, what can I take? What can I take? And it's just like, what can you give? Like, what can you really, create or, I guess, process or be a part of to where you can not really think about what's coming in. You're more so focused on the output. And then I think you can really get that contrast. And like he was saying about the fast, like, as far as like, you could just take your steps so you don't have to like leap into dry fasting. And then, I feel like if you do like dry fast to like 3 or 4 or something, if you do that for like 5 days in a row, you don't have to do it for the rest of your life. It'll just stay in your life for the rest of your life one way or another because you've experienced that. So like if you fast for long periods of time, it's kind of no way because that contraction is going to happen. Your organs are going to shrink back down. And, you're going to release all the inflammation. So then you have that contrast to where when you start to reintroduce garbage, it's just like impossible to do. It's like you can't be stuck on stupid anymore. So I think it's like she was saying, so much of it is mental. The mental weight, it becomes physical. So the more that you're in your purpose and aligned with output and staying in alignment with, because creation is alignment. So the more that you're aligned with your purpose, the more that creation is just, it's a byproduct. It just happens. You can't really separate the two. So I think the more that you are not in your purpose, the more you're going to have mental weight, and you're just going to be, your gifts are going to be getting used for somebody else's dream, and then it's just going to create mental weight on you, and then that becomes physical. And it's like inevitable.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good segue then into my next question. I'm going to pass this to Prophetess. And I have to ask, because when this happens, when a lot of people first get introduced to doing fast, they see a lot of changes physically, obviously, because it's kind of like what Taylor said. When you're going through this process, it's a reminder of you're getting back to what you truly are. So I have to ask, when it comes to the spiritual benefits of this, what occurs? Because I noticed for me, especially when I very, very first started doing it, that my dreams got really, really vivid. And this is kind of a topic for another time. But when you're actually in your dream, a lot of people should know that you are actually you've already left your body. Leave your body every time you sleep, technically. And so you just bring more of your consciousness over when you are more aware in your dreams. So I guess that brings me to my point of awareness, of how much awareness there is when you are actually going through this process, getting back to your true self, doing or fasting, and then seeing all of these different spiritual benefits that come along with that. What do you have to say about a lot of those that you experience?
Thinking of the question. The spiritual benefits. It's like I said, I don't have a destination. So in a way, I feel like I'm learning more about myself, the inner me. And the more and more actually I fast, the more I see myself as a vessel, and that information just comes through, and it's not, the less I intake, the more I realize, for example, that I'm not this human body. you know, and information comes through me. So step by step, I think, like, you know, things are changing within me. Like, for example, sleep is changing, right? Along with my drinking and stuff. So, and when you say dreams, you know, it's all about being conscious, and also in the other dream as you are conscious here, right? So what we do when we sleep, we go into a deep sleep, like we pass out, like we go in coma, right? So when you have done like an extended fast, like, you know, been through this journey, you will know that you will never go into that deep sleep. You just go into a resting mode, you know? So when you let go of that deep sleep, you know, when you eat and you get full and you get so tired, have you ever woken up like after many hours and you're tired? You're like, oh my God, I need to rest from sleeping so much. Because you do get tired when you get into a deep sleep. So I feel like I'm being more alert and aware, and I'm becoming like a clearer vessel for information to come through. And that information is not mine. It belongs to the universe. But I have to be a clear frequency for that information to come through. So every step that I take, actually, I'm just feeling like I'm not doing anything. It's just being done for me, basically. So I don't know if I actually answered your question, but it's just like, you know, you step into a higher level of yourself. I don't even want to call it a higher anything, but it's just, things just happen, you know, like, just like your breath is just happening, you know. And when you wake up in the morning, you just wake up. You don't, in your sleep, you don't say, okay, I'm so conscious, I need to tell myself to wake up. It just happens. You just wake up, right? So everything is actually happening simultaneously all the time. So it's all about, you know, syncing with that. So I feel like I need to sync with it. So when things are happening like day and night, I see it as a concept now. Like, I don't think like you should sleep at night. It's just a thing that people have said, okay, you have to sleep at night. And everybody's like worried, I have insomnia, I can't sleep, because they didn't get the 8 hours that was, you know, told that they had to sleep. It's just like we're creating problem on problem and problem and problems. So I'm like, what's wrong with the night? What's wrong with if I get up 3 a.m. at night and do my normal things, you know? What kind of energy would I feel, you know? So I have to sync with day, night, you know, sun, rain, all kind of stuff, and become one with it. So I feel it's just a journey that's happening within me, but it's not something I'm doing. I don't want to take credit for anything that I'm doing. I'm not doing anything. I'm just trying to be, you know, learn how to be.
I'll switch it over to Brandon and actually go over into the physical benefits of this, because we see that happens normally right away for some people, whether that be a spike in energy, that brain fog completely going away after maybe a couple of days. But there's a lot of things that happen physically, and they go hand in hand when it comes to physical and spiritual and mental and all this, because like what she was saying, when it comes to the mind, obviously that plays a really, really big role. But physically, when people start getting into fasting, what are some of the things that they can see right away, and also later on down the line if you're doing 30, 40, 50 days, or even like a year like Taylor?
All right, so my longest fast that I've done was, I believe it was 33 days. This was when I was going for 40 days. And I do agree with you know, the aspect of you don't want to challenge yourself, because then you set that benchmark and then you begin to, I noticed that I begin to feel like I can't meet that benchmark, right? I'll get to your question in a minute, but I just wanted to bring up this point that if you go to my very first video that I did, my locks were like right here. This was back in 2016. And I was doing a lot of cooking videos, but shortly after I began to implement a lot of fasting routines. I'm talking, you know, 5, 10, 20-day fast. And I could see the difference in how fast my hair has grown. You know, my skin begins to look more vibrant, and I just feel different. It was just a instant change. Like, I'm able to, you know, be more lively and spend more time with my daughter because I have that boost of energy now. My abs begin to tone up more. and I haven't done a push-up or a sit-up in who knows how long. It's just, you begin to feel it. I begin to feel it before I even notice it. And it was an inner thing that you begin to see externally is what I noticed. But a lot of things that were taking place inside began to quickly show outside, to the point of the sleep at night. I noticed you mentioned that we don't, who says to sleep at night. And just to speak on that point is, at night is when most in my creative mode, where I feel most, in my creative aspect, like, a lot of ideas are coming. But I agree. It's just you notice a lot of things that you were doing from a habitual aspect begin to, they begin to shatter and break. And, you start to feel it physically and notice it internally as well.
Me being in my third day, I've noticed how much work I've gotten done not worrying about what I'm going to put in my body at all. Even when it comes to juicing, and because I'm juicing, I do teas, drink water, coconut water, things like that, but I'm not constantly thinking about it. I wake up and I'm not like, oh, I got to juice, or, oh, I'm going to juice. It's more like, I can open up the fridge, get my cucumber, get my stuff, cut it up, blah, 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 put it in the juicer. And then that's just like my, my liquid for the day. But it's not a job. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not something that I feel like is on my mind constantly. I'm more so like, what can I do for myself today? What can I get done at this very moment? So when it goes back to what Prophetess was saying with just being that's what this all I feel like really comes down to. If we can all really come to that agreement on this live, is that after the word fast up here, it says less is more. And you can use that analogy in so many different ways, because even if you're a minimalist, right, you have a small house maybe, or a small apartment, condo, something, but you only have things that you feel like you need for the most part to get through your day or your life normally. You don't have TVs in every single room. You don't have beds and a bunch of extra clothes. You just have just what you need. And what it seems like, the more that you go down this line, is you get to less and less and less and less. The more that you go, let's say you 14 days in, right? That's longer than 7 days. But the more that you go in, the less that you need. Like, that's really what I feel it all comes down to is, and Taylor, you've said this, I believe, plenty of times, though, is that it's about like needing less, or not needing at all, about what you don't need. And I think that if you look at it in the material way of the fasting with the food and all that, that's really the surface level. Then you start to actually do the process. And then you go to, like what Prophetess was saying, is that you're doing nothing, that you start to see that you don't need anything. And even when it comes to relying on things outside of yourself, we see this happening a lot with people today on a lot of surface level things, whether it be in politics or whatever the case may be, that it's something outside of you that you're looking to maybe do something for you, or to help you, or to aid you in some type of way. And so the fasting process is something that I feel is still kind of foreign to a lot of people. It's we're used to eating so much that if you were to tell somebody this concept, that they would think you're crazy for not partaking in something that is, when it comes to society, is just a normal thing. So I would say my question for everybody is, how does this type of knowledge get to people and become something that is a normality, something that is, it's what we are? I mean, I guess technically, for an example, when your body dies, you don't need to eat. You're operating in soul form. Like, this is only really this type of dimensional construct, a thing that we do is partake in solid food like this. And it's like you said, Brandon, you go outside, you get the sun, you don't need anything. I feel like that all the time when it's sunny and beautiful. Like, I just go out, and that is my energy source. So how is all this information regarding this subject to reach people because this is something I feel like will change everybody. I mean, just breaking addictions, breaking the negative thought process that people have. Fasting can do all of this, amongst other things. What do you guys think is really the answer, I guess, to that, to people? I'll start with you, Taylor.
Like she was saying though, so much of it is the dreams though. Like, because if you're fasting, then you can connect with yourself more. It's more about the communication, man. Like, the more that you fast, the more that your cells can breathe, and then the breathing is communication. You know, if you're talking, you're just breathing loud. So like, every time that you're communicating with your bodies, are communicating. Any part of your body, any cell is communicating through breath. That's the way, you know, through the breath is being attached to the blood, the prana or whatever, oxygen or what have you, whatever you want to call it. But that's the means of communication, because you're inhaling ether or melanin, whatever you want to call it. So that's your basis of communication, is breath. So when you're fully inhabiting your body and fully, you know, embodying yourself, then you have full circulation and full communication. So then if you go, you know, going into the dream state, you're doing things completely like that, you know, to where you completed the day, you didn't waste anything all day, because, you know, wastefulness is not in the likeness of the creator. So the more wasteful you are and do things that you don't need, the further you are from the alignment with the creator. So when you're going to go to sleep, it's going to be unconscious as well. Like, because sleep is just unconscious breath work. So the more that you're not present, like he was saying, doing habitual things, you know, you're not present, so you're being unconscious. You're pretty much sleepwalking. So you're eating because you're sleepwalking, and then you actually go pretty much fall asleep in this dream, and you're going deeper and deeper into illusion.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but if you're present and then you lay your body down to have that trance experience that we call dreams, then you're connected with yourself so well that you can connect with, you know, the collective, to where you can wake people up, because you're waking them up in reality. You know, like the dream is actually reality, or heaven, or whatever, what have you. And this is, you know, a copy or whatever, a simulation of that, in my view. So if you're going into reality, and people they're on autopilot here, so they're definitely on autopilot there. So if you're waking up, if you're conscious or present in your dreams, then you exude that presence, and then you're just waking people up. You know, it's just like how if you walk somewhere and you're on the street and you see somebody, you know somebody's looking at you. It's the same thing. If you're in a dream state and you're present, then you just make people be more present just from your presence. So that's, I feel like, is the way to really create those ripples. You know what I mean? Because it's just the nervous system. You know, like the nervous system's not being respected. So if you're eating out of order, or eating too much, eating, you know, when the body's releasing endorphins that aren't in that respect, like, as you look at the organ clock, you know, different hours of the day, the body detoxes different organs. And if you're not familiar with the clock, then, you know, you're probably eating at the time when you should be detoxing. And so you're just blocking the communication from that organ. So now all the nerves in that area are not communicating correctly, because that's how you communicate, is through this nervous system. We're in a neural net or an ether net, whatever. And so you have your little microcosmic neural net, which is like your body. And if you're abusing an area, then it doesn't communicate with the other areas. So it's just being blocked by that plaque or whatever it is, you know, that you're putting inside the body that's creating a plaque. And the parasites nest in the plaque. And so, you know, the parasites just intercept that communication, so that, you know, now you're just connecting with parasites more and more. And your parasites just driving your body to dream in a way that could, you know, connect you further with more and more parasites, and position your body in a parasitic state, you know, in a place that doesn't really resonate with your true self. So you just get more and more and deeper into that illusion. And if your nervous system is nourished from the breath, then you can see the different phases of the day. Every 2 hours you go into a different detox phase, and your nervous system is shifting throughout the day from sympathetic to parasympathetic, and you're going through this process. But if you have no respect to it, then you're going to eat sympathetic foods during parasympathetic time, and everything, just going to be no respect, you know, because so much of it is just respecting yourself. And if you do that, I feel like then you're going to connect with others. You know, you respect to connect, I guess.
You said a lot of stuff that made me think about certain things. And for an example, I noticed when I started doing fasting and my skin started clearing up, you know, hair, like Brandon was talking about, hair was growing stronger, faster, that you start to notice when other people are sick.
Mhm.
And when other people are like, you can look at their face and tell that they are not taking care of themselves, you know, internally. And it's not just about the skin glowing and things like that, you know, that we can talk about another time when we do semen retention. But it's just also for the simple fact that, like you were saying, that connection, that energy, this allows you to really, really get in tune with who or what you truly are in this body, and you can feel that energy amongst others. You know, literally, all four of us on here know about all this. We've experienced all this, but there's that knowing when you just interact with certain people that there's a sickness, you know, there, whether there's actually a disease or there is that lack of self-love and care. And so as I pass this over to you, when you can look yourself, if you can look yourself in the eyes and in the mirror and you can see that you are actually healing or you are healed, because really, I mean, you are that. Really, a sickness comes from us, the thought that we need to heal something. But when you can look at yourself and see that progress is there, then you will then be able to raise that awareness to look at others and see that they are lacking that. And that's just something to be aware of when you are around people and others as well, because a lot of us don't realize we're in these type of environments where that is toxic, you know, that is a toxic environment where there are toxic people that are not on that path at all. It's really easy to really see now. How do you see this being something that people can really grasp and get onto? Not necessarily just the fast, but the whole entire lifestyle of just being and not needing.
Yeah. First and foremost, I would like people to see food as addiction. Simple as that. You know, no, it's an addiction. And once you let go of an addiction, some people relapse, you know, but normally people don't want to go back to it, right? So if you see it as an addiction, and let's say cigarettes, when people stop with cigarettes, you know, smoking cigarette, they always mention that, oh, I can smell better, you know, I can taste better, you know, because they have been numbing their senses with the cigarettes. So it's the same thing with the food. You know, we've been numbing our system for so long. Like I have a cousin, she was addicted to sugar. So she was like, I'm so tired, help me. And I just said it. I was just joking. I was like, you know, just fast for 5 days, be on water for 5 days, you know, and she did it. You know, she actually did more than 5 days. But now she can't stand sugar because her taste buds have changed, right? So she was just addicted to it. She just wanted, and then she was just numbing herself. And when people eat food, it's connected with emotions, you know. So always tackle the emotion from the root. You know, what is it that actually wanted you to eat when you don't want to eat? What is it that's forcing you? You know, like just know it's the mind thing, and hunger is really an illusion. Okay, there's nothing called hungry. It's just an illusion because you think you need something, right? So if you see this as an addiction and know it's an addiction, tackle it from the mind. You know, if it's connected to some emotions, like go the root of the, you know, emotion. What happened to you? Why do you like this certain food? Why do you need it at this hour? Why do you need it, you know, like in the morning or whatever, you know? I've never had food addiction, by the way. Like I'm a human being, but I don't think I've had the mind set that says like, oh, you need to eat, you need to eat. I have been opposite. For me, it was like, oh my God, why do we have to eat? You know, it makes me tired. It takes away my energy. Why do I want to eat? You know, so it was a burden since I was a kid until I realized, and I've seen people that are actually, you know, on this veterinarian path and they really want to let go of food. I'm like, okay, now I can be me. You know, I can just be myself and I don't have to worry about it. So just see it as an addiction. It's an addiction we have normalized, you know. You are okay exactly where you are, you know. There's nothing wrong with you if you are still eating meat or if you're still eating something, you know. It's just, you know, just start with the thing that you think is like hard to let go, okay? And then work with the mind, because it doesn't matter what it is, it's the mind that you're working with. So if your mind can actually, if you can tame your mind and you can discipline your mind, you can go through anything. You can go through anything, you know? Like my system right now, I think it's absurd to even think about solid food. My system doesn't work like that. You know, I'm scared of solids, you know, because if I get some solid in me, I know something, my system has to do something, you know. You have to push out some things and you have to do some other things. It's just, you're disturbing the system, you know. But I don't feel like I'm lacking anything. And it's because I let go of the thought that I think I'm lacking. I have the one that, you know, I'm losing weight and I don't want to lose weight, but I'm working with that thought, you know. But it's just an addiction, and you're perfectly where you are, where you're supposed to be. Just, you know, once you realize that this is your natural state, you know, the path chooses you. You don't choose the path, you know.
Yeah, I would say really try to fall into like trusting your intuition. The thing is that we're in an age of information where anybody can say anything, and when you're confused and unsure, you don't really have the what was it, like your body is not really able to, I guess you're not understanding the signs that your body is giving as a form of communication. Then, you know, any form of information can be seen as valid to you or untrue. So you have to really kind of fall in line with your intuition and really figure out what it is that you're doing. And that's why fasting really is one of the greatest forms of recovery, is because you're just cutting everything off. So when you begin to say when you break your fast and you begin to reintroduce things, you can see the cause and effect of it. So my thing would be that I guess the question was, what would I do to wake people up to fasting, right?
Yeah.
And I would say, you know, just try it. Go in there with an open mind. Drop all the negatives about fasting, like, oh, you need to eat breakfast, lunch, dinner. Drop all that and just go in there with an open mind. And I know we don't really want to challenge ourselves, but or use the word challenge. You know, I kind of use that loosely, but you know, try a 24-hour fast. It don't even have to be 24 hours. Just fast and really sit back and see your reactions of, you know, your response to doing nothing, to eating nothing. You know, even cut off, I even fast from social media at times, because when you're trying to receive information from yourself and then you're still, you know, you're scrolling through social media, you're receiving information from everybody else. And then, you know, that plays a big role on your mind as well. You know, like mind games or your process of your thoughts plays a big impact on how successful of a fast you can perform. So I would just say go in open-minded and try it. You try, not to say any time left, but always, you know, see what happens when you extend your fast and you feel the difference. People, once you begin to feel the difference, that's where your intuition begins to kick in. You can kind of point out the BS of information that comes in, because I get all type of comments that say, oh man, you're a psychopath. You know, you're fasting for what, 3 days, you're a psychopath. You got to eat something. And to somebody who never fasted before, it does sound crazy. They're gonna, you know what I mean, they're gonna kind of gravitate to what that person just said. But when I first heard Dr. Sebi say he fasted for 90 days, right? Or I believe he also had a story where he placed his mother in his house and he had her fast for 90 days, and he was explaining what happened when 10, 30 days happened. And you just have to allow yourself time to do that, and then you'll be able to kind of realize that you had the answers already. You have the answers. So now I can just point out the BS because I know I've done it. I've applied it. I didn't just research this information. I actually applied the information that I researched. If I fast for 90 days and Dr. Sadie said this would happen, and it had, like, this is how we confirm information. We actually do it. We don't just sit here and look at people who have all these, certifications. You gotta be able to confirm this information yourself. So go ahead, try it. Prove me wrong. If I'm pointing out all this information, you can prove me wrong or prove me right by applying some of it. And to some people, it's like, what do you have to lose? What do you really have to lose by trying out some of the things that people are saying about, especially about fasting? You just have to go in there and do it. Don't worry about 24 hours or 72 hours. I always use those benchmarks as an example, but just go and do it. When you think less about it, you kind of do it effortlessly, until somebody brings it to your attention. Sometimes I'm fasting and my wife, she's cooking. She's like, oh, you want me to save you a plate? Even though I'm like, no, I'm good. But now food's on my mind because she brought it to my attention. You see what I'm saying? But you just have to go in there and just do it. Just be.
When you're fasting, actually, just, the time that you used to eat, just replace it with something else, like a practice or something like that. Because of the boredom, in your mind, when you're not eating, because people eat because of they're bored. So replace all of that time that you were eating with some activities that would normally help. Otherwise, you would just get more bored, and then you would get, desires.
Yeah, that's a good point.
No, 100%. I didn't bring the entertainment of it up because I don't know. I felt like we kind of should know already. Like if you like I said, I'm sitting here watching YouTube videos, nothing that has to do with food, and then food advertisements pop up. And I pay attention to it immediately, where I'm just like, oh, it's right in front of me. They're showing the burger and all that being made, the onions and the tomato. And I'm not hungry at all as I'm seeing this, but I'm just like, why am I noticing it so much more than I would if I was actually eating? And once again, it just suppresses that awareness and that consciousness. And it's just stuff that we don't pay attention to when we are constantly in the act of doing this. Like Taylor said, you're on autopilot. You are on autopilot when you are eating because you're not eating consciously, you're eating unconsciously. And like she just said, I mean, it is, it's this addiction. We don't even know that we're addicted to this. We don't know this. We're not paying attention to it because our awareness is being suppressed. Somebody had mentioned about not just fasting from food. There's other things to fast from. Cell phones, TVs, people, certain activities, could be sports, things like that. And those are all important things. That is the point of a fast. And that's the reason why after I put fast, I put less is more. But I believe it starts with the food. That's the reason why I didn't highlight a lot of that stuff. I started with the food because food is really your everything. You're in survival mode when you are hungry. When you're hungry, you're there's a lot of money. And Taylor, you actually explained this pretty well, and I'll let you do that. But there's a lot of money that gets spent on food. As we know, a lot of people are going to grocery stores or they're eating fast food, whatever the case may be, and a lot of money is being wasted on that alone. So Taylor, I'll let you go ahead and explain that, but you mentioned that cycle of that about going to work, having to need the energy to all that. So explain that how you normally do so people can actually understand that cycle.
I feel like so much of it is people operating off of fear, obviously, and then misconstruing the dehydration signals for food when your body is just giving you the signal for being dehydrated. So people just they think that those are the hunger pangs, and and then also the parasites, man. At this point, like if you've been eating plaque-forming foods for a long time, since inception till now or however long you've been alive, then you're going to have a lot of plaque, and the parasites, they nest in the plaque. So the parasites are driving you to do all the, a great deal of the things that people do in their life, whether it's music, the music they listen to, whatever it is, so much of it is that. And, that's what's supporting the things like you said, like the garbage ads on YouTube or just whatever you're being exposed to that's offensive to your being. so much of that is just the parasites communicating within you, and with the parasites, you know, because your body, like, you can use telepathy. The parasites can use those faculties too to communicate with other parasites in other people's bodies. So the more plaque that you got in the system, the more, you know, you're gonna be an apartment building for parasites. So you know, so much of it is that, like, we living in this artificial grid. You know, life is already kind of a natural grid. You know, like, you got the nervous system grid, like I was saying, everything is in different, the body's in grids, and then there's this artificial grid laid down over top of it that's offensive to the organic grid. And I really feel like so much of it is just the nervous system, and that people operating out of fear. If you aren't in touch with your breathing, and you don't have circulation, and you're not consciously going into the parasympathetic state and really seeing your body shift gears like that from sympathetic to parasympathetic actively, like, not just like laying down and passing out. If you're doing it actively, then you can see, like, different times of the day when your body's releasing different endorphins just naturally, and when you're in different nervous system states. And if you're not in touch with that, then I think you're just going to confuse so many things for the wrong, you know, you're going to get the signals, like, you know, crossed. And then if you're already afraid to lose your job or lose certain things, you lose the way people look at you or your persona. If you have to let go of those things, you know, people are going to run from fasting because it brings all of that stuff up. You know, you're not going to be able to be the false self if you fast more. It's just going to be more, the truth is going to have to come to the surface, and it's just going to be less of a parasite the more and more as the days go on. And the parasite's constantly just going to feed the beast system, use you to feed the beast system, because it's trying to get you to eat those things so that you go to sleep, and then you're tired, and then you wake up tired because you were getting dream raped all night because the food is just blocking your connection with yourself. So now you're just hemorrhaging massive energy, releasing adrenaline while you're sleeping, because your body's in the sympathetic nervous state when it should be in a parasympathetic nervous state while it's recharging. So then now you're waking up hungry. So people wake up hungry and they go eat, or they wake up hungry and then they want to sleep more, or whatever they want to do. It's like, I feel like so much of it is just the, you know, the misappropriation of the endorphins in the nervous system. And the chakras are really the endocrine system. And I feel like the only way to really align, you know, the system and to replenish is to fast and get in touch with your breath. And this, it makes the decisions impossible. Like she was saying, it's impossible to do certain things once you've experienced certain things. Like it's really just intelligence, man. Like certain animals, the less they need, the more intelligence is activated in them. You know, the more that an animal needs something, like a cat needs less than some other animal. It can go out and go rogue and do its own thing, and it doesn't need as much because it's more, the intelligence is activated. I don't want to say it has more knowledge than something else. The knowledge is there in people, it's just not active. It's just dormant. So the more that you fast, the more that it becomes active, and then it just becomes impossible for you to turn it off at that point. Like, you've already activated, you can't unknow. Only way that you can unknow is if you die traumatically or have some type of traumatic injury. But the more that you fast, the more you're gonna get in touch with your dreams. So it'd be less. You're not gonna attract those type of things anyway. So I feel like it's just so much of it is parasites and just
fasting the parasite away.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's the parasite that are craving. You know, it's not us; it's the parasites. So you have to get rid of the parasites.
Bitter herbs definitely help in that sense as well, like burdock, yellow dock, sarsaparilla. I like to make a mixture of those whenever I even start my fast to begin with, and allow those to steep. Drink those in the morning, or maybe when you are feeling those cravings, you can replace what you're feeling with that consumption of those bitter herbs. But not sure what y'all really mentioned on parasites, but
there's parasites that hate certain herbs. Like whether it be the smell, whatever it is, there's things like it's almost, if you're just using our whole analogy of, if you reach a certain frequency, right? Like you're on a different channel than others. So that's kind of like with the parasites. The parasites are only able to really operate when you are in a dormant mode, I guess, or you know, where you're like on autopilot, like what Taylor was saying. When you're not operating your body or yourself fully, that's when a parasite can literally take over. And there's a lot of different ways you can look at it, but when you are, like, if you're somebody who's being introduced to fasting now, you probably have all kinds of parasites inside of you, because there's, you know, you haven't went on a proper detox. And honestly, I believe fasting, when it comes to just not intaking anything like that, no type of solids, no none of that, that does not need to be in your body, that is the proper way to detox your body.
Yeah. I'm thinking of different parasites. Sometimes when I hear parasites, I'm thinking of the mind's parasites as well. You know, information is a form of consumption. A lot of people consume a lot of information as well, that you create actually those parasitic thoughts in your mind, you know. So it's very important to actually know what you're listening to and what kind of music you're listening to, and the vibration of the music as well, because the parasitic is not just from the food, it's your thought, it's your mindset as well. So that's the one that's more challenging, I should say. You know, the other ones you maybe can take some herbs to clear your system, but your mind is very important. Change what you listen to, you know what kind of beats that is coming into your consciousness, because every frequency has a effect on you, you know. The way your body vibrates, it has an effect on you. So when you listen to music and you say, like, let's say like I'm fasting and I'm listening to this full-blown rap music that's talking about all kinds of stuff, I'm not clear in my head. You know, my system's not clear. So it's very important to know that when you're fasting, fast from, you know, other consumption as well, such as informations or music, sounds.
There's the physical sense of the parasites, there's the mental and spiritual sense of the parasites. And, you know, to me, really it all goes hand in hand. You know, it's like as above, so below, within, without, same thing. And that is part of the fasting process. Fast from normal habits that you have when you're on autopilot, because then you will, when you do that, you'll start to see how much of what you need is there, and how much of what you need or you think you need doesn't need to be there. And that's the important thing of less being more, because when you, at least what I've noticed, and it sounds so weird to people when I tell people this, but when I'm fasting, that's when I'm actually the best at the gym. That's when I have the most energy. That's when I'm the strongest. That's when I'm the most clear. But when I'm eating, I don't want to do that at all. I'm like, I don't even want to go to the gym when I'm eating. I'm like, nah, I'm just going to stay here and chill. You know, and Taylor says this, I've heard you say this in a couple of your videos, Taylor, where you say that when the food only gets in the way of your creativity. And that's literally what I've noticed over the past 3 days. I'm on day 3. And I mean, I haven't eaten, so it hasn't gotten in the way of it. But I noticed that had I been eating, oh yeah, I wouldn't have been getting the things done that I've gotten done. And so if you want to actually see what you're capable of, like Prophetess said, do nothing, just be. Because then you have really the world at your disposal. Like so many capabilities there that you wouldn't if you're letting food control you. Because when you're in a fast and you're not partaking, you're not needing, you're in control over your mind and your body. But when you're on autopilot, which is you're just eating and who knows how many times a day, you're letting your body control you. And you're not the body. I think that's one of the important things to understand too. Because when you give in to the cravings of the body, then you're not in control at all. That's something that you should probably be aware of when you are outside of a fast and also going inside. How much is you operating the body? Now, I want to get to the questions real quick. So the first question is from Yugen123. How do I fast and avoid losing muscle mass?
You need to stop the mind from taking your muscles away. I actually gain when I'm fasting. I gain muscles.
Yeah, I would think that your body just regenerates. Mm-hmm. See, I think a lot of people look at it as losing something, but you're gaining yourself. You're gaining more access to what you truly are. So I don't know if I can't see that as a loss, that you would be losing muscle.
Yeah.
How tall are you, Gio?
I'm like 6 foot.
You've never grown an inch more, right? You stated that once you matured, that was it, right?
Pretty much.
You got a fixed height and a fixed weight. Like you know, if you can get on stilts or you can put things in your body, but you have a natural weight and a natural height.
Mm-hmm.
So when people are calling muscle, a lot of that is just inflammation and fat and just water weight, inflammation. So much of that, they call it swelling or swollen. I mean, it's so much of that is restricted to the circulation to the organs. So I feel like you can have a fully matured muscular system, but you don't really build muscle, just like you don't build height. So it's like your muscles kind of are what they are. You just want them to be matured to use them and work them out. And I feel like working out is an exorcism, man. It's a self-induced fever. You got things in your body, emotions or things you shouldn't have eaten. So you're initiating a fever, a heating up process to exercise. It's an exorcism. And that's so much of it is. I feel like working out is basically like metaphysically shitting and actually heating up. So like people eat and then work out. It's so backwards. It's like you should be working out on an empty stomach because you're in the process of, you're releasing.
It's like we're working with energy at the end of the day. So I don't even think you need to lift stuff, just to get muscles. I do Qigong and I can get muscles of that. It's just energy moving. But it's the mind. It's the mind. If you attack getting something and, lose the mind.
How much are you working out for vanity and how much are you working out because you just enjoy working out? Like, how much are you measuring it? The more as you measure everything, it's going to be more miserable. So it's like, if you go play a sport and you're playing basketball, like you're not really thinking like, I'm going to play for 45 minutes. Like you might look up at the clock like, oh, I got to stop, I got to go. But you're just like in it. But if you're like, I got to do this many reps and then do this every time, you're going to just rob your childlikeness is just going to get robbed.
Right. And people, they're overhyping. I don't want to say overhyping, but they're focusing too much on how they physically look. When you fast, you're going to lose that fat, so your body's going to start beginning to shape in a different form. It's not going to be the same, but you're not necessarily losing muscle. As Taylor mentioned, you're just losing that water weight, that fat. But like I said, every time I fast, the abs get real toned, and I just, feel real strong. I feel far stronger than I was before. I'm able to utilize my muscle activity more in my day-to-day life. So, I don't really see, any loss in muscles.
Yeah.
But it's just more of a physical appearance people are expecting to maintain, but that was inflammation to begin with. And you're not going to have that. That's what you're going to lose. So you are going to lose weight, but you're not losing muscle.
I think that it comes down to just like what you're saying, people are too worried about what they look like. And it's not, I believe Taylor says this, it's not about working out, but working in. And when you do that inner work, you see what it is that you really want to be reflects on the outside. That's why I said that you could tell when somebody's sick because they're not taking care of themselves. But when you're taking care of yourself, if you're on a fast, you're doing semen retention as a man, that is self-care and self-love to another degree that people will see that. They'll feel that energy and all that. So, yeah, it is an inner work that will then reflect on the outside because as within, so without. And I think people have to look at it that way and not worry about the vessel, the body, because that is not what you truly are.
Yeah, you see the vessel, it's a car. The body, just see the body as a car and you are the driver. So you have no business in thinking about how the car looks like, it's just, you need to know that you are the driver and take the wheel, And also, if you have been giving this car wrong fuel for so many years, try to give it a right fuel so you can get further, you can last longer. So see it as that and separate yourself a little bit, like you are the driver and not the car,
Right.
Yeah.
Taylor, were you going to say something?
I was going to say, yeah, like you're the inner being, man. And it's like, you got to work from the inside out. Like if you're constantly working out, then your blood is constantly allocated to the external part of you, to the external tissue. You know, you got 3 levels of tissue. Everything's pretty much just skin. So it's like 3 layers of tissue, and each layer, you know, has, you know, produces different organs. But so you have all this focus on the external and no focus on the organs, then your circulation is just poor, and you're just constantly injuring the same area. It's just like, I don't know, it's just like a self-induced, like, you know, just constantly injuring an area to keep the blood here to where it never really circulates through the inner organs where you're really communicating with yourself from, and it don't really make sense, like, to prioritize the out before the in.
Next question. What's an herb that keeps the pineal gland stimulated and healthy during a fast? This is by Solar Juicing Company.
Dandelion root, ginkgo, things that are shaped like the brain, like I was saying, black walnut.
Guaco Padiarco is another one. And it gets brain circulation. Valerian root's another good one. And tamarind. Tamarind, it's not an herb, but it is a fruit that, you know, has a lot of those fibers that can carry some of the fluoride within the body, the excess fluoride that we have within our system. So tamarind, I'm real big on tamarind. You can eat that as is, or given that we're talking about fasting, you could kind of prepare that as a juice. I always prepare it as a juice, and it kind of can help clean some excess waste out when I need it, and it carries some of that fluoride that, you know, our systems are overrid with.
I don't have any herb suggestion, actually. I feel like you just have to feel the herbs, you know. They just have to talk to you, you know. They have to let you know, like, okay, today, if I really need orange, today my system will be like orange today, you know, because it knows it needs that something with orange today, you know. So I always feel my herbs, but dandelion roots, it's one that I normally use.
So you're basically just saying to listen to your body and what it's telling you that it needs.
Yeah, every herb, every fruit should talk to you. Literally, like, it should tell you when you, like, if I need some, let's say, like, some type of melon, that day my consciousness will say, okay, we need that melon, you know. If it's some herb, my consciousness will say that herb. Okay, and when I'm feeling the herb, then it would actually heal whatever it needs to do, because of my body requested it. It's not my mind that requested it, it's the body that just requested, right? So they're talking to each other. So it's like an energetic thing. Your herb should talk to you. That's why cooked food and all this kind of food, I like when you said that crap on YouTube, you said the garbage. It's true, because it's not food anymore. It's a plastic thing. It doesn't speak to me, you know? So anything that aligns with me speaks to me. So I think you should just, you know, do your research. It's fun to just research all kind of herbs, you know, just to know what's on this planet, you know. Whichever speaks to you, that's yours. That's it, you know. It's simple. Life is simple, you know. We complicate by putting too much concepts and stuff on it, but it's not so complicated. Drink whatever herb that resonates with you. If you feel like grounded while you're drinking that herb, just do that, you know.
This is by Ni Juju 13. Is anything 100% parasite free? Is there something that is free of parasites?
You can make it in your mind, but even the air, you know, everything that we're breathing, it's, you know, it's just what the mind makes out of it, you know. Right. You can be in a very toxic place and you don't know about it and you won't be damaged, you know. But it's all about, you know, your mind, your mind.
Yeah, if your body's not hospitable to the parasites, then they'll never be able to fester. You know, you're never going to be able to get rid of all the microbes. You just don't want adult ones. You don't want fully grown microbes that have made a residence in you. So if you're not eating plaque-forming foods, then there's nowhere for them to nest.
Right.
So I mean, anything live is going to have microbes in it. Like she said, even the air.
Mm-hmm. But it's there. But if everything needs a balance, there's nothing good or bad in everything. You know, it just needs a balance. Maybe those parasites need other parasites to kick them out. I don't know. It needs just some balance in everything. You know. So yeah.
That's like you were saying before. You were saying before I got on about, or he was saying, I think both of you guys were talking about being more in nature or in places that's like more complete. You know, like if you're in a place that is all concrete and stuff. If there is a microbe that is there, there's nothing to compete with it. Like you said, it's just going to expand and expand because there's no competition, there's no balance.
How do you boost testosterone when fasting and eating less? Well, I'll go first. Number one, you can't boost your testosterone if you're not retaining your semen as a man. That's already number one, because you're just getting rid of all these nutrients. I shouldn't say ingredients. That sounds terrible. Nutrients that is in your body and ingredients. And so, and so that is already number one. And then number two is you have, of course, all these different vegetables and fruits that will help to aid and give you those nutrients to help build testosterone. Of course, there's certain things that are specific to building testosterone, but it's just when you're fast, it'll happen naturally. Your body is going to reset itself. So, I mean, that's what I've noticed in my experience, unless anybody else has had different experiences with that or other things they've used to boost their testosterone. But for me, it's just something that happens naturally.
Definitely semen retention, which, you know, that's something I'm still practicing, because, you know, I still, you know, indulge in activity with, you know, my wife, sexual activity with my wife. And I know you can still, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm still a student of semen retention, so y'all have to invite me on the next session y'all do that on. I'll come in there with my cap and, you know, student cap on. But, you know, that's something that I'm still practicing on. But if you can implement that, and fasting, you know, naturally begins to boost the testosterone, and yeah, I mean, you just, it just naturally occurs, you know what I mean?
Just to piggyback off of what you said and what I said, is it's about aiding your body in it. You know, your body's going to naturally do it, but if you are not practicing semen retention, you're not doing that. If you are engaging in the act and you're releasing, then there's no way to boost it, because you're not allowing your body to maintain it. So it is, yeah, it's simple, but it's complicated in a sense, because the less that you do, the more you're able to retain and build what your body needs, you know. So do less, which is not that, and then it'll naturally happen. You know, it builds over time.
Yeah, no, the testes produce a great deal of the testosterone. So yeah, if you're draining yourself like that, then yeah, you're gonna, you're not working, you're not helping yourself. And like you said, it's more so about, doing, not doing. It's way, man. And more, you gotta let the body reset, and that's pretty much it. The more, what you gotta figure out what's leaching the testosterone, and like where you've misappropriated it, throughout your day. If you're working out for vanity, you're gonna torch a bunch of testosterone for that. And if you're busting nuts, you're gonna torch a bunch of testosterone on that. And then, I feel like so much of it is just misplacement, because like you said, it's there. The stuff's getting produced. It's there. It's just like you kind of just want to. It's so inhibited by being drained for the misappropriation.
I mean, I think all three of us answered that question in every possible way we could. So if you don't walk away with any type of knowledge on that, then I don't know what to tell you.
All factors in the endocrine system, man. That breath, man, gonna help so much.
Yeah.
Circulating.
Yeah, it does. Cold showers, all types of things, you could do, but doing less is that. Because what you are doing, if you definitely are not doing semen retention, is just like Taylor said, you're not helping. You're doing something that's actually suppressing your testosterone. So do less, basically. Next question by Fifth Element. What are your thoughts on jumping directly into the fast, directly without gradually eating certain foods? Will the body just restore and regenerate itself without high-profile herbs and fruits and veggies to prep? And I'll say this and keep it short real quick, is what I think about it is what I do is I jump directly into the fast. Doesn't matter what I eat before it or after, but if you are someone who's just now getting into it, I would suggest you eat. This is just my opinion. You guys may disagree, but it's worked for me and others I told. Is eat, like, let's say you love steak. You love it. You're just like, oh, God, I can't go without it. Okay, eat that steak before you do the fast. So that way you already have had your satisfaction fixed. And then when you're going into it, you're not thinking about steak. You already had it. It's already in the past. So now you're able to move forward. Because if you do jump into a fast, and let's say you love sushi, you're going to be like, damn, I want sushi. I want sushi so bad. Like that, it's once again, it goes into the mind. So I feel like that's a trick that you can do in order to really kind of keep that in the past behind you, as a habit that probably wasn't serving you. So I would suggest doing that. That's what I think about it, is simply just getting that out the way before you jump into a fast if you are not prepared for it mentally. That would be my suggestion.
I will ask, what type of fast?
Well, I'm guessing like maybe just like a juice fast.
Yeah, you can just jump into it. In my opinion,
Yeah.
you're already consuming something, but
Yeah, but what do you consume when you consume though? You consume, see, whatever you're consuming isn't so crazy. If you've been eating all dehydrating foods, that's gonna be a miserable fast. But like you said, though, you can do it though.
I was about to get to that point. And yeah, the thing is, it definitely does depend on what foods you're coming from. What, like me, I first started my fast, like the first time I fasted ever, and this was when I actually began a transition into, a whole different way of living and a way of thinking as well. Is, I first ate, like, what was it, brown stew fish, and I just jumped straight into, a whole water fast with herbs. Like, it was a liquids fast. So I didn't eat significantly, like it wasn't a great amount. It was a small portion of fish. That was back in 2015, and I didn't notice it affected me. I didn't even have high profile herbs, but it was more so the way my mind was lined up. Like I was already set on my why I'm doing it. So my intentions, it really goes into what your intentions are before the fast, during the fast, and after the fast. Are you going to go back to those foods that you ate that were toxic after the fast? Then it's not really going to benefit you well, or it doesn't really necessarily have much to do with the herbs and so itself, but your mindset, your intention, your reasoning as to why you're even doing it.
That's what I would call vanity fasting. And that's why, like, I think it's easy. That's what drains you too. Like you said, man, if you're doing like, I got to focus on 40 days fasting. But if you like do like what she was saying, like it's your default, it's your lifestyle. It's not like you have to measure it so much. Because I feel like, you're vanity fasting, then you're getting caught up in that, like, I'm better than you because my behavior is better than you. When it's like, nah, you're not really better. Like kind of, everybody has their own personal situation or struggles or whatever. You might have better behavior right now, but you're not better than them. So I feel like so much of that, people get caught up in the fasting just so they can be like, I'm better than other people.
Yeah.
Or like, yeah.
And that's a bad one.
Yeah, no, that's why I always say, like, you have to really be intentional, with your fast. Think about before, during, and after. Like that really matters. I think a lot of people's reasoning doesn't really align with ways that can benefit them. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like it's just gonna result into the same habitual, like the same habits after the fast. Is it a fast or just a way of living that you're trying to achieve? Like it's just different, man. Like, the mind, it really does start with the mind.
Yeah, it is the mind. If your mind is in the right place, from normal food to juices, I think it's fine, because you thought about it a little while, at least. You've had this thought of fasting. Probably you have tried it, it's fine. It's fine to just go to juices because, if you think about our body, even though we eat solids, it liquidizes. Nothing goes anywhere hard, it's like it makes it liquid and then it goes into the streams, So just think of that. You're still eating. If you're juicing, you're still eating, Maybe some of the, emotional part where you have, connected with the food, those will be bothering you. And that's the addiction part of it. But you're not lacking anything, by drinking juices because you're still eating. You're still consuming juices,
Yeah.
I don't know if y'all have experienced this, like different times of the year is easier to fast maybe for you, or different, you just because your body goes through different cycles where it might be just easier for you to just be on water or just coconut water or something, and other times maybe you need to have smoothies or maybe, green juices or whatever. I feel like if you get in touch with fasting, then you get in touch like seasonally, like different times of the year. It's just your body's just automatically trying to do that, and you just need to get out of the way of it, and then it just happens. And like what you were saying too, man, everything is, you're chewing it into a liquid, and then your body's turning that liquid into a vapor into prana, and you're burning it up just like a car, because the car digestive system is designed after the body. You don't give a car chunky liquid.
Exactly.
So and the car got hundreds of horsepower, and people are so concerned about being on liquids, and it's like, man, you're cutting to the chase in a sense, and just be like, look, I'm not trying to have chunky food when I'm trying to make it liquidy anyway, generally speaking, and it doesn't really make sense. Like
I look at my juices sometimes and I'm like, oh my God, it's doing all the work for me. Can you imagine everything that's coming out of that juicer, happens in your system, and then you need to push it out. Like, we didn't come here to produce poop, to be honest, because that's what we do, and we all produce tons and tons of poop for no reason. It doesn't mean if that food was liquid, it wouldn't give you the same nutrition that you're looking for. But we are, addicted to the part where we are chewing, where we, the whole eating thing is addiction. It has nothing to, it's just an addiction.
Once again, as above, so below, within, so without. And when you look at a juicer, what does a juicer do? A juicer does exactly what your body does. It's just that it's something outside of yourself. That's all it is. So when you look at how a juicer breaks down, you put a cucumber, you put a mango or something in there, you see that's going to get rid of that skin, some of that waste there, and then it's going to give you that liquid. What happens to the stuff you put in your body? Same exact thing. You get rid of that waste and you keep what you need. And I want to give you this picture. You go ahead and try and juice a hamburger and see what happens.
Yeah.
But then if you get something out of it, because all that really is waste. But then when you get something out of it, go ahead and smell it and see what that smells like. See, this is what your body is constantly doing when you are putting junk inside of it. But when you're putting things that are actually high vibrational with the fruits and with vegetables and any types of herbs like that you can juice, you're going to see that it's so vibrant. It's completely different. It's not going to give you the same effect as if you were to juice a damn hamburger and then try to consume that. It ain't going to happen. So just keep that. I feel like you keep that thought in your head when you're aware of what you're putting in your body, whether it's in solid form or it's in liquid form. And then you'll start to see progress. You'll start to see progress in your life because your body will start to make those significant changes that it needs to.
Yeah.
It's so much energy.
Your plate, the plate full of food in your closet for 3 days and see how it smells, That's what happened.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
I'm saying it's so much energy. Like if you plug in, especially the typical juicer, like you can see how much wattage it takes to spin them blades. It's so much energy that your body would now have to use. And if you don't, allocate energy for all of that, all of what the juicer would do, then now you have the energy for something else in your life. And you just, it's such a contrast in living. And I mean, the thing about juicing is that I feel like you really do got to throw the greens in there because to balance the blood out. Because it's like the fruit is structured, or is supposed to be structured. So much of it is designed in an artificial way now, but the fruit is supposed to be structured to have a ratio of fiber, sugar, and water. And if you remove the fiber, then that sugar hits your bloodstream too rapidly because the fiber would slow that absorption down. And if you don't have that fiber, then you're gonna have this huge spike in sugar, and then it's gonna make you want more sugar and more sugar and more sugar. So like if you throw the greens in there, it'll help to balance the blood out a lot more.
Yeah, I noticed that myself because I didn't used to do fruit. I used to only do greens, but I started doing fruit, and I would do it kind of like shots. So it wouldn't be like a whole lot I would make, but I would make it like it was just like I can down it, and it gives me that boost, that natural boost. And then the rest of the day I'm doing greens. But I noticed the greens are so much more prevalent when it comes to my detox and my just aiding in the whole energy and recovery and restoration process, because greens, I mean, you think of yourself as a plant, you know, with that chlorophyll, all that stuff that the green vegetables give you, it gives you what you need to literally grow if you're thinking of a plant in this process. So I kind of wean off the fruits a little bit, even though it's kind of good to have, almost like if you're going to think about eating, it's kind of like a little dessert to have. But the greens to me are the most powerful. You know, that kale and as soon as I juice that and I see how dark that green juice is, I'm like, oh yes, thank you. I'm like, need
That means like you resonate with it. For me, it's more like I don't feel like any of them give me anything that I don't already have. You know?
Oh yeah, no, that's a perfect way to put it. I think it's just for me that I see it and I know that it's like it's better.
Yeah.
It's better than
your
what I
body
could.
knows, you know, your body's looking for that chlorophyll. It's like, oh, we need chlorophyll, you know? So it's the body that's actually requesting, like I was saying, you know?
Yeah.
But it's not that, oh, I need this. And
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it's just, we want stuff, you know? It's like we're creature of desires. We want
Yeah,
something.
you want. Yeah, they want. You
We
want
just
to want.
Mhm.
You want to want. You want to desire. People want to desire because it determines their identity.
Exactly.
So, you know what I mean? Whatever you want is what you're saying isn't you, and it determines what you are. So, you know, so much of it is that, and the satiation comes so much quicker, I feel like, from the greens, because, and people don't want to be satiated. They want, you know? So they like, oh, give me what is going to keep me desiring.
Yeah, no, it's just a desire. And I wouldn't recommend drinking it. Sip on your juices, because, you know, the desire can be stopped here. You
Yeah.
don't have to hit the belly. You don't have to go down here, you know? So when you sip on your juice, you know, just roll it around in your mouth, you know, and then the mind will trick it and it will think like you drank something, you know, because you stopped the desire right here. Well, people like to jog and you're like, oh my God, now I'm full. That's the ego again. And that's not how you're supposed to consume. You know, you're not supposed to consume. I can have a glass of juice all day long and just sip on it, you know, because I'm just killing that desire. It's not that I need, I'm just killing the desire that thinks that it needs, you know.
So even when it comes to juicing or drinking liquid, you're basically saying even do that less.
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree with her though. Actually, it's like I said, there's it really. You can do it. Your environment really plays a big role in it though. Like me personally, I can't do that when it begins to become fall, winter season. It starts getting real cold. Of course, during those seasons, I gravitate more towards, you know, my warm cup of tea. But, you know, if I'm able to just sit in the sun, I don't need anything, honestly. I really don't. I could just chill in the sun all day and I'm getting all that nutrients. You know, I've even been able to repair my eyes just by glancing at gazing at sunset, sunrise. You know, being in the midst of nature, listening to the water, the trees, all that makes a difference in healing. Telling you.
Yeah, I create those kind of moments, you know. You have a sun inside of yourself sometimes. Think of the solar plexus. The solar plexus.
Oh, right. Yeah, correct.
In your
Like
sun.
the core. Yeah, you have a core sun in your body.
You have a sun inside of you, you know. And sometimes, you know, it's the mind that takes you to places. So if you really want to be in the forest somewhere, you know, put something on YouTube and sit yourself there. You are in the forest. You know, we challenge ourselves by thinking like we have to be in a certain place to be our natural self. But you can be anywhere. I'm in a concrete jungle, you know, in the middle of San Francisco, you know. But then at the same time, I can be me. I don't need to be affected by anything. And anything that affects me, I always look within and be like, okay, since I'm reflecting this, it must be originating from here. So we need to work with that, you know. So I will always go back in myself. And no matter where you are, you can actually be, you know. It's not that the place makes you, it's just you are, because you are you all the time. You just have to recognize that, right? So
yeah, for me, it's true to an extent, like, because the jungle, like, whether it's a concrete jungle, there's still a jungle underneath that concrete. You know what I mean? You see a rose or flowers or dandelions popping from underneath the concrete. The jungle's still there. You can't hide the jungle. But it's just when they do things, because I've been to East Africa, I've been to Rwanda, and I'm not exaggerating. I noticed the difference in the food, the air. There's not chemtrails in the air.
Ooh.
My breathing is entirely different. I don't have to breathe as much. You know, in Rwanda, land of a thousand hills, they call it, you're at a higher altitude. So you breathe less naturally, but you're using less. Less is more is what we're talking about, right? When you breathe less, it's more. But they teach us that you breathe deep. That's greater for relief and stress. But I just learned a lot so much out there, how your environment does play a role.
It does, but
You know, I get what you're saying though, because you are your environment and you could still make the most of it no matter where you are. It's just when I went there and then I came back to here, it was instant. I felt like, whoa. You know what I mean? The food was different. You know, the fruits, the vegetables were just different because the soil is different. You know what I mean? The ray of sun is different. So, you know.
I agree because I'm affected by the chemtrails here. So it's just that don't hang on to an idea that you can't be, you know. But definitely that your environment has a lot impact on you, you know. That's why we're getting all of this stuff in the air, and that's why we're being attacked on all kind of levels. I don't know what it is, but it's all kind of levels, you know.
Literally, like you said about being attacked on every level, I think that's why this live and this topic is very important, because the less you need, the more that they're going to try to control you in every possible way, whether it's through the food, the water, the air, everything. But the less that you need, nothing can control you. You have full control of your body and your mind. And that's why there's so much power in this and in this process of doing nothing and needing nothing. I want to move over to this question, though, real quick, because I'm not sure who will have all the answers for this, but it could be all four of us. So I want to probably do two more questions, and that's it. So this is from Sika Simone. I have fibromyalgia. Any recommendations for the nervous system or inflammation? I'm turning 50 and determined to be my best mind, body, and soul. Let me just say I'm proud of you for that, because some people don't wake up until probably too late or don't wake up at all. And, you know, that could be a very, very tough process for them. So does anybody have an answer to that question?
Mushrooms. Different mushrooms. Yeah. You know, mushrooms are known for nervous system, you know. And mycelium, how the mycelium works here on the planet, you know, I don't know if you guys are familiar with it, but it's the connection between, you know, all the plants and everything underground, right? So it's the same thing with our body. The mushroom does the same thing, you know, it fixes the system, you know, the nerve system, just like it would on the planet. So drink some mushroom, buy yourself some mushroom powders, you know, put in the hot water, just mix it. It's like drinking like a coffee, just play with it, you know.
Yeah. To add on to that, for the nervous system, I would say, you know, you want to focus on the minerals like copper, zinc, magnesium. She mentioned mushrooms. Chaga is a real good one. Let's see, bladderwrack I found to be very helpful for the nervous system. And what else? Chickweed, and mostly any type of form of berries, elderberries, bilberry also helps with that nervous system.
Yeah, just take these things daily and get it out the way, you know. Just don't take things when you think you know, oh, I'm in danger and now I have to fix something, you know. Just make it as a habit, you know, have those herbs and learn about them, and just be your own healer, be your own doctor.
Yeah. And, you know, it's definitely getting to the root of the problem. That's why, you know, I really don't like talking about herbs before addressing the root. You know what I mean? Before we talk about plants and all that, what's causing the issue? We gotta, you know, identify the issue, the root cause before, or not before, because you can still implement these things regardless, but definitely identify the root cause of the issue as well.
It's the process of elimination. You know what I mean? I feel like you gotta gradually change your lifestyle to where you minimalize, and then you actually just fasting on just water. And then once you reintroduce the foods, one at a time, then, you know, you could have mono meals and you could see, you know, what exactly might be inciting this response, you know, because a lot of that, I mean, just fibromyalgia, you know, it's pretty much this autoimmune response. There's like some sort of, like she was saying, some sort of mental attack system. Like your body is attacking itself, basically. So there's something that you're bullying yourself mentally at some level. There's something that you're trying to force yourself to do that goes against what your body was designed for. And yeah, I feel like fasting is definitely going to make it more obvious.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I was going to say that too. I was like, isn't fibromyalgia the, like the nervous system, you know, thing? And I was like, well, with that, what I would literally with the fasting would be the answer, to be honest, in my opinion, because when you become more aware of your body and all that, and it's literally empty from all these things that could be putting it down a path of self-destruction, to go off of like what Prophet has said, was mushrooms would probably be a really big aid in helping with that, because they actually have been, I mean, at least with the studies and all that, but that they connect certain neurons and stuff in the brain. And I'm thinking if this can revive, you know, that, then your nervous system, it would do the exact same thing with. So it's just, it would be like a restorative and regeneration process at that point. So fasting, I think, would be the key. And honestly, anything, and maybe you talked about this before, Taylor, I'm not sure, but I would put it about as simple as this. Anything that happens to you or in your life or your body is because of you. And if we can't grasp that concept, you have to look at your daily routines, your life, all this stuff, how you take a shower, how you brush your teeth, what you put in your body, all this stuff. So if you end up with some type of illness, it's because at some level you've created that outcome for yourself. So if you're not creating, whether it be a change of environment, like we were just talking about, if you're not creating something like that for yourself that is actually positive and aiding in health, then you're going to go the opposite way, so to speak. So doing less, doing nothing is going to be the answer, because you're not aiding in a self-destruction, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And like the dude was saying, man, like, you know, a lot of it is heavy metals. So, you know, cilantro juice and, you know, maybe chlorella, things like that.
Yeah. It's like you fried your nerve system, you know, with all this food and everything, you know, we numb it, really. So like you said, you know, everything that you feel like, if you have a disease or something, it's just, you know, situation that you put on disease, you know. And if it wasn't you, probably was, you know, your family. It's just, all diseases comes from just, you know, eating habits, you know, from generation to generation. Our cells can remember what your grandpa used to eat, you know, and you can have that little, you know, effect that he had, you know what I'm saying? Because all we're doing is just cloning the DNA, you know, our genes, we're just cloning it. So if your grandpa had it, you know, eating habits, or your grandma had eating habits, you would have those things as well, you know. It's just transfer genes. But
You're right. Yeah.
You can undo that by changing your eating habits. Maybe your family was, you know, big meat eaters, and that's why they have this heart attack or whatever they had, you know. You can change that. You can change that.
Yeah, because, and I'll add on to that before I move on to the next question. I was going to say, because literally, like, we have, you know, we're energy. We're you know, we're just in a body. That's it. And Dolores Cannon said that beautifully. She said, you have a body, you are not a body. You have a body. And we have energetic fields. And if your energetic field is weak, you are susceptible to sickness. To, you know, you don't have a strong energy field, basically, long story short. So if you're also dealing with things like radiation and stuff like this, you can be easily affected by that. So what your eating habits will do, it'll either help to build that energy or to destroy that energy, to weaken that energy. So you just look at it like that. You know, if you have two light bulbs together and one is stronger than the other, then that should tell you pretty much everything you need to know right there, is that one of them is lacking that energy. So look at it like that, and then you'll be on probably the right process of that self-healing when you can kind of put your mind in that form. The next question, this one's for you, Taylor. Do you smoke at all anymore? And if not, how did you get there?
Now, I wanted to finish up on what you said, though. Yeah, it is like you said, it's like it's more so like I feel like if you replace me with it or I with it when it comes to the bodily things, because the body is the it, it's the object more so than the subject. So it's not the observer, but yeah, I feel like so much of it is looking at it that way. You can, really see life clearly. But I haven't gotten high since either May 31st or June 1st. I forget. It was one of them 2 days. And so I don't know. I mean, I've quit for 6 months, a year and a half, a bunch of times. I don't know. We'll see where this goes, man. It's every day. I'm not really thinking about it, but it's like you're saying about food. You know what I mean? You don't bring it up, and then somebody brings it up, and now I'm thinking about it. But yeah, I feel like weed is a process, man. So much of it is just not blocking the breath anymore, and herbs like astragalus can help, on a mechanical level, but mentally, yeah, so much of it is just really getting to the bottom of the depression. You know what I mean? Because it's just depression. You know what I mean? You're just like inhaling depression, basically. Now, you don't want the depression to get processed. The lungs process depression, and they process all gases. Not just what you inhale, but they process depression, like emotionally. So if you're building up plaque in the lungs, there's some type of grief that is not being processed that you have your identity attached to, and so much it gets tied into the weed. I feel like the personality from the weed, like rolling up and acquiring it, and all the mannerisms that come with it. I think all of that has to get murdered off, and like she was saying, you got to replace it with something else that's more constructive. So something that's more creative, something that's not going to take you away from yourself, away from your breath.
Yeah, everything is moderation too, though. I feel like the cannabis plant is a female energy. It's a feminine plant.
Especially with no seeds.
Yeah. So if you think about it, if you want to go inward, and you want to use it as medicine, so know that you can use it at that time, like to go inward. But when you overuse it to get high because you just want to get high, that's when it becomes an addiction and a problem, right? So use it wisely. You don't have to combust. You can smoke so many different ways. You can intake this plant in so many beautiful ways. So it's all about how you handle it. It's all about how you treat it. That's how we will treat you back. So if you just sloppy with it and you don't care for it and you just do it just to get high, then that's what it's going to do. So everything has its own place, in this world.
Yeah.
I think if you eat it, it's not going to be as addictive. You'll just appropriate it if you eat it or drink it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I mean, look at all the other herbs that you don't smoke. You don't need to smoke marijuana. You don't need to do it. You can use that in so many other ways. It is a miracle plant. That's the reason why people, and this is my opinion, but the reason why people smoke it to get high is because of the effects that it has. So if you think that this has these type of effects when you smoke it, what do you think it'll do when you actually use it in a proper way? Like it'll actually have way more better benefits. So I think for people that are struggling, maybe, and I don't want to say struggling, but let's just say people that don't want to do it as much or want to kind of wean off of it, is why don't you just use it in a proper way, like in a better way that's actually more sustainable for yourself with benefits? Because I mean, there's a lot of people that are just chasing that next high, but there's no benefit of that, in my opinion. There's no benefit of going to go and get some weed or something and then going and doing the same process. It's not actually helping you as an individual or even as a soul, in that way, in that form. I've never seen it like that. So I think that if it does become an issue or a problem, just use it in a proper way and not in that form of smoking,
Healthier way,
Yeah.
Use it in a healthier way.
Because I was going to ask you, Taylor, was it are you looking to stop smoking or just you resist from using the herb entirely? What are your thoughts?
I felt like it was bringing me to a state that I kind of didn't deserve, honestly. Like I felt like it was making me more relaxed than I should have been. It's like if I was behaving like I won the NBA championship or something, like this is not something I really deserve to be doing, like as much as I was doing it. I feel like I had put it in a place where it was not appropriate. I feel like if I don't do it for a year or 2 years, maybe 3 years or something, if I was to return to it, it's going to really knock me off my feet. So I feel like it would just be more contrast, and it would be more effective, and I could, just use it, with more respect. I feel like, yeah, I wasn't really respecting myself, respecting, life itself, and it was really blocking my dreams, man. And like she said, it's so feminine. Like it's so, what I mean? It brings you so much into the feminine. I feel like, and like I feel like there's a time and a place for that. And I feel like at this point in my life, I don't really want to be in that space for a while. You know what I mean? It feels like more like sedation than how I feel when I'm sober, especially for lengthy periods. Like for me, I didn't start smoking until I was 18, and it wasn't like I was continually smoking. And I feel like if I would have been introduced to weed and it was just eating it first, I would have had a totally different relationship with it. And so I just feel like I gotta just work on my relationship with it by stepping away from it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
think that's a good way.
Drinking it, so maybe that's why.
Yeah, drinking. Yeah, like a tea.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a tincture.
Yeah. That's what herbs are. Same thing with mushrooms. It's they can have the effect of psychedelic, but depending on how you take it will change everything. This one is by The Story of Angel. Any book recommendations? Currently reading The Hermetica and The Light of Egypt simultaneously. I want to continue to ascend to transcend. Thank you.
For me personally, I would say, that this book is going to cost a lot now because they jacked up the price. But for me, one of the greatest books that I have is The Tree of Life Meditation System by Ra Umen Nefer. There's another book that I think they're trying to rack up the price to like $300, $400 now for that book. But I had that years ago. And this was after the pandemic. They started jacking up the prices of books. But if you can't find that, The Tree of Life Meditation System, I would also recommend any of the Medu Neter volumes by Ra'un Nefer Amen. And, they're just really, really help like ground yourself and look at yourself from internally and externally, from an external perspective. And I feel like it just helped build and strengthen my mind, look at life a different way. So yeah, that's one of the authors, I would say. Ra'un Nefer Amen. That's what his name is. But those two books, The Tree of Life Meditation System and any of the Medu Neter volume systems.
Great books. I'm gonna look into them myself. I
Yeah,
like
I know.
books. I would recommend maybe one, The Biology of Belief by Bruce Lipton. If you haven't read that, it gets into that. I'm all about tackling the mind, and the belief system that we have created for ourselves, So The Biology of Beliefs by Bruce Lipton.
Get him,
Nice.
all around that for our men. If you go to the website, it's a lot cheaper. You just have to wait a little longer. The Tawi Network, TAU. Yeah.
The only thing with that one, they didn't have the Tree of Life though. That was a real good one. But they do have the Medu Neter volumes on there though. So yeah, that's a good one. Tawi Network.
Yeah. For me, my favorite book, it would be the Huahu Ching, HUAHU Ching. It's a quick read. I mean, I love the Tao Te Ching, obviously, but the Huahu Ching, or the further teachings of Lao Tzu. I love Lao Tzu, man. I mean, I'm a big Lao Tzu guy. You know what I mean? So yeah.
Same here.
I agree. I have that one in the room, and we talked about that before, but that book is so simple but so effective, and that's the best thing about it. If you're not somebody who can really sit and just read like that, you don't have to with that. But everything that it gives you is just so impactful, in a short span. So I would also recommend that. I don't have a book to recommend like on the topic when it comes to fasting. I think definitely stuff with the mind is good. I would just say, since you all brought it home, I'll take it outside for like a couple of seconds. and just say that you be the book. You be the book, because when it comes to fasting, everybody has different experiences. And so the first 3 days for you could be different than the first 3 days of somebody else. But the best way to learn is through the experience. So when I talk to people who don't have the experience of fasting, is and not just from food, but could be from phones, could be from movies, games, music, all this other different stuff. But when they don't have that experience, they literally cannot comprehend what you're talking about at all. So you be the book, you document what happens with your body, with your mind when you do this, and you literally can just change your life overnight for the most part, to be honest.
I agree.
So yeah, you really be your own aid in all of this as well. How do you begin to release the attachment to sugar?
Water fast.
Water fast. Now, I'll add on to that. Taylor, what about coconut water? Because that's going to be a little more sugary than, regular water.
Yeah, I think you should definitely get the Latin American coconuts as opposed to the Thai ones, because they don't have to go as far and they got less sugar content if you're going to have those. They satiate you faster, and they don't make you want more. Like you said, the more sugar, the more that you're going to want more. So, yeah, I mean, so much of it is just bitterness and addiction to alcohol, really, though, man, with sugar, especially with the food combinations that create alcohol, multiple sugars at once, more than a full amount at once. So all of that creates fermentation, and then the candida, and even like, the ethanol in the fruits too. The candida is taking that and converting it into alcohol to feed itself. And, the candida is what colonized pretty much the world. We're dealing with like personified fungus running the world at this point. So like, so much of it is just rooted in bitterness though. If you want sweetness, then there's some sort of bitterness, and you just got to figure out emotionally, why are you so bitter?
Yeah.
And just take bitter herbs help,
Yeah, I was gonna say that. Like, bitter herbs always have helped me. Like, that's one of the go-tos. Like, to start my fast, I always do bitter herbs, and then just notice how much I have relied on sugar. Coming into this, I was into the mindset of thinking that agave, date sugar was a healthier alternative. While that may be the case, it's still sugar at the end of the day, at a processed level. So it's just seeing what I use them in, and then go without. Like, I made all my teas without sugar, just using them as is. And it also helped me to realize that I wasn't preparing my teas or preparing my herbs properly. You're overcooking your herbs. So you had to add some sugar to make them feel away. When you cook them properly, like letting your root herbs soak before, you start to boil them, or you get the water hot, and then you drop in your leaves and you shut the water off and you just let them steep. The leaves, it tastes good. They taste good as is. You don't really have to add much. So I would say getting into the habit of, just going without.
Yeah. And if you're drinking some tea, and you want to just fast and just have that tea, have maybe some sea moss. I normally have like some sea moss in my tea, and that gives you, whatever you think you need. At least it covers that, But it's all about changing the taste buds, because we have damaged the taste buds, and now it just wants something to numb it. So the sugar is like, is a numbing effect, it's a drug.
Yeah. And I was going to say too, like, I don't even like my tea with sugar, like, because it's not the tea that you're actually drinking at that point. It's the sugar you're not drinking the concoction for its benefit, or for, if you're drinking like chamomile or something and you put sugar in it, you're really just drinking the sugar. That's what you really want. So it just cancels out everything else, and that's why when we did your interview, Brandon, on the interview, when we talked about how people who are like vegetarians or vegans and people who eat meat, It's like when it comes to the meat, you're really just masking it with natural herbs. That's the reason why it tastes different or it tastes good, is because you're actually just coating it with something else. But all the meat would technically be its texture. But I mean, if that case, you could just put shit and then just soak it with some herbs and spices, you know what I'm saying, and make it delicious. Like, no, that's not how it works. You can't skate around natural substances. So any type of addiction to the sugar is not natural, because that's not natural. Like, that's not something that if you got to put sugar in tea or Kool-Aid or whatever the case may be, it's not the Kool-Aid or tea or the liquid that you're actually craving or that you want. It is just the sugar. So when you start to actually go a little bit deeper in the mind, you start to realize this stuff as you are consumed, so to speak. We're going to go ahead and close this out. This was pretty successful, very informative. I enjoyed it. I hope everybody else enjoyed it. And this will be like your one stop for a lot of information on fasting, because I'm telling you, once again, I don't see too much on it, even though it's not common, but it's not common, but you just don't find a lot of information on it. Mostly it's intermittent fasting, and I don't know why that is. Thank you all for coming on. Thank you, Taylor. Thank you, Brandon. Thank you, Prophetess.
Thank you, guys. All right, then. Salute, man. Cheers, then. Yeah, y'all too, man.
All right. Have a good day.
And I chosen to go down the other street. Some days felt like a second of me. There is no